Dharamshala in Himachal Pradesh sits 6,000 feet above sea level. And one of the main reasons this town is on the global map is His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama.
Behind these gates is the Dalai Lama's residence, where he meets dozens, if not hundreds, of devotees who are cleared through very strict security checks and then meets with all of them.
The 88-year-old spiritual leader who fled Tibet in 1959 under Chinese rule spoke about the Sino-Tibetan conflict.
He made two real points. One, that he still does not believe that he wants independence from China, that what he's asking for is more autonomy under the People's Republic of China. When I asked him if he thought he would go back home, if he'd go back to Lhasa, go back to Norbulinka, eventually he said that he would like to go and visit, but that he wouldn't like to live in Lhasa anymore. His health doesn't permit him, and he would much prefer to live in Dharamshala.
In 1950s, a large part of Tibet had been forcefully acquired by the Chinese. The Dalai Lama escaped to India in 1959 after a Tibetan uprising against the Chinese rule failed. He also established a democratically based shadow Tibetan government in Dharamshala. However, the question of who will be the Dalai Lama's successor bothers thousands of Tibetans who have made their home in McLeodganj, nicknamed Little Lhasa after the Tibetan capital.
Succession is something that our friends in the United States use, but it's more, for us, it's more the reincarnation or emanation or whatever His Holiness decides. Of course, there are a lot of concerns. Chinese government has been preparing on this for the last 20 years at least. So they are more worried about the 15th Dalai Lama than the living 14th Dalai Lama. China will definitely look for one Dalai Lama, and the Tibetans will definitely look for another Dalai Lama. And it's very much possible that His Holiness is born outside Tibet, because this is one consistent thing that His Holiness has been saying, that I will be born only in a free world. So in that sense, the next Dalai Lama could be Indian also. Right. Who knows? So under different circumstances, there may be different perceptions of how things could evolve. But His Holiness has been assuring us that he will live for another 2 decades and more, and he will live up to 113 years of age, because there were propitious pre-signs that this Dalai Lama will live very long. And this morning you met with His Holiness, so he still shows his teeth and says, I have not lost one teeth even at this age. Yeah. Now in 89, going on 89. So it's still far off from our perception. The only document relating to His Holiness reincarnation or the next Dalai Lama is the September 2011 document, which talks about when His Holiness reaches the age of 90, then he will consult and take some decisions. So it's now almost a little less than 2 years down the line. In 2025, on 6th July, there may be something from His Holiness. Or His Holiness might say it's too early to talk now. Of course, you talked about succession plan not being there, or reincarnation plan not being there. That is, I think, conscious decision by His Holiness, because Chinese government cannot handle uncertainties. So if His Holiness decides now, then Chinese government has all the resources, financial and human resources, to influence the world community towards their perception of how it should be. So that is why some of our friends, some of our Indian friends who know China well, who have served in China as ambassadors and others, they feel that His Holiness' decision is very wise.
But as the Dalai Lama has always preached non-violence and taking the middle path, the question is, will the current and future generations show the same patience in taking the Tibetan movement forward?
I'm not very much worried about the Tibetans who are born outside Tibet, because wherever they live, they have to follow the laws of that country, and it's not easy to organize violent groups. And as you said correctly, His Holiness has always been saying that if Tibetans take up violence, are we no more responsible for the cause of Tibet. And that is also one reason why Tibetans restrain themselves from violence. Now, what is more dangerous is the Tibetans inside Tibet. So far, due to desperation, 157 Tibetans have already self-immolated and majority of them died. And that spirit is still very much alive. So if something happens to His Holiness not being able to come to Tibet and has to leave his body outside, that will leave a very deep wound in the minds of the Tibetan people. Now, if Tibetan inside Tibet take up violence, that will also be very detrimental, both for Chinese government, because to take up violence, you don't need too many people also. The only thing is you have to organize it well. So, and then it will be detrimental for Tibetan people also, because when Chinese government is not concerned about killing their own children in Tiananmen Square, they won't have any second thought before they kill Tibetan people. So that will be again more sacrifices of lives. So violence is never a solution. We don't believe in that, because once you take up violence, there is always remnants of these consequences, and it will come back again sometime into the future. So non-violence is the best means which Mahatma Gandhi had also taught us, and His Holiness follows that.
Another growing worry in Dharamshala is preserving the Tibetan language and culture. At the Tibetan Museum opened last year, there are photographs of Tibet's past and even the clothes and mementos of those who took the arduous journey over the Himalayas from Tibet to India. Officials here are worried that new residential schools opened for Tibetan children may wipe out Tibet's rich history. The residential schools seek to re-educate them and teach only standard Mandarin language. With so much at stake, the debate that dominates the Tibetan parliament in exile is who will succeed the Dalai Lama. Dolma Sering Thekang, the parliament's deputy speaker, says the community is staring at an uncertain future because she feels they lack a charismatic leader who can explain to the younger generation what is right and what is wrong.